Argue later. Genesis 27. We're going to be talking about Jacob and Esau. Now, here's the thing. Jacob is a very modern figure. He's got what we would think of as sort of normal, everyday, like the things that we experience, sort of doubts and troubles and difficulties. And for many people, as you actually read and study and understand, Jacob becomes a much more relatable figure than some of the other guys. Right? I mean, for many of us, the idea that we're supposed to be like David in some way, that we're supposed to walk into the big giant who is carrying a big sword and a big spear and is screaming and yelling and fighting and declaring that, he's the enemy of God and we're going to walk into the field with just 5 stones and fight him. That doesn't feel relatable sometimes. And there are others, like Noah and some of these other people, we're never going to be there. But a guy like Jacob, a guy who's got family conflict and parents who are picking favorites, and he himself is sort of wrestling with who he is, and ultimately, he's even going to wrestle with God about who he is. Jacob feels very relatable. He's sort of an unhero hero. And as we have been saying each time as we kind of have gathered back around Genesis, we start in the first 11 chapters of Genesis with big universal stuff. And then God in chapter 12 introduces us to Abraham and begins to say all of the stuff that has been screwed up by sin and brokenness and depravity. The whole universe has been broken. My solution is through this one family, through Abraham's family, I'm going to bring peace and hope and joy. And this family of covenant, I'm going to have a unique relationship with them. And in every generation of this family, you're going to be able to trace and follow the line of that, what we now know of as the Messianic seed. That there's this Messiah, this chosen one, this anointed one who will come, who's going to undo all of the stuff that was broken over here in those first chapters of Genesis. But that through this family, we're going to be able to look, and there's going to be like a string that kind of flows through it, and you're going to be able to trace in every generation, where does this seed come from? So we're looking for that seed. If you're ever like, boy, I don't know, when I'm studying through the Old Testament, what am I supposed to be looking for? One of the ways that's really helpful as you think about Old Testament stuff is, where's that seed? Where's that line of the Messiah? How does it fit in this path? And so as this seed gets traced generation after generation after generation, they become the leader, the head of this family that becomes ultimately the nation of Israel and leads us, we know now today, ultimately to Jesus. And so he's teaching him, this head of this family, the seed in each generation, becomes the one who says, here's how you relate to God. And it gets revealed, and they're talking about the law and all of these things. How do you walk with God? What does relationship with him look like? And so when you go back and you see Abraham, we know Abraham was the first seed, and Abraham has a couple of sons. First, there's the illegitimate son whose name is Ishmael, and then there becomes Isaac. And we know, because God reveals to us that Isaac is that seed. He's the one. The line is going to come through him. And as we began to look last week, Isaac himself has 2 sons, twins, Jacob and Esau. And again, through that, and even before they were born, when they were still in the womb, God revealed to their mom, that the younger one, who we know as Jacob, was going to be the seed. He was going to be the one where the line was going to be able to be traced through. Esau would serve Jacob, and Jacob, even though it was through deception, even though, it was because, as we looked at last week, because he convinced his brother to sell his birthright for a bowl of soup. And it leads us, and now we're going to keep going in the story of Isaac and his 2 boys, Jacob and Esau. And when chapter 27 in Genesis opens, it says to us that at this stage, Isaac is an old guy. He's blind. He's old. He's coming to the end. He doesn't know how many days he has left. And he invites, because he doesn't know how many, he invites what we again learned last week, his favorite son, whose name is Esau. He was the firstborn, but not the one that God had said was going to be the one in the line of promise. He invites his son Esau, his favorite son, the man's man. Esau was a hunter, right? He was the outdoors guy. He was hairy and sort of big and bold and brash, and he was that guy. And his dad loved him. His dad apparently had a favorite meal, right? His dad celebrated that he could shoot and kill the animals and bring them back, and he had a way that he would prepare them. Like, all of this stuff indicates to us that this was not the first time, right? This has been an ongoing, throughout the course of his life, Esau and his dad have had this unique, powerful relationship where they did stuff and they connected in a way that most certainly the other brother did not have. But as he sends his son out, right, he calls Esau in and he says, listen, I want you to one last time maybe go out, hunt me my favorite animal, prepare my favorite dish. I want to bless you when you come back. And the mom, Rebecca, overhears this. Now, most likely, she's been anticipating this idea of blessing. We're going to spend all of our time this morning talking about blessing, so get ready. But she has been waiting. She has known that as his life was going to come to an end, there would come a moment when he would give his blessing to Esau. She could see that it's like the nature of their relationship was going to lead to this moment. She's been watching, waiting. Just like we saw Jacob last week watching and waiting for his brother to come in hungry that he might trick him. This is probably right where Jacob would have learned to be deceptive and tricksy from his own mom. And that's what she does. And so the dad sends Esau out to hunt, and she waits, and now she springs her own plan. And so she calls Jacob. She says, listen, I've got it all ready. Here's some of his clothes. Here's your brother's clothes. Here's some skins from animals we're going to put on your arms and try to make you hairy. We're going to let you smell like him, look like him. I know how to prepare his favorite dish. And you're going to take this in, and you're going to get the blessing from your dad. Now, Jacob says to his mom, listen, this isn't going to work. I'm not him. Like, dad is old, but is he really stupid? Right? I mean, is he so blind? Is he so unaware that you think this is going to, and she's like, listen, it's going to work. And he's going, but if it doesn't work, I'm not going to get the blessing. I'm going to get cursed. Dad's not just going to not give me the blessing that I'm hoping for and you're hoping for, Mom, but he's liable to curse me. And she says, listen, if any curse comes, let it just fall on me. I will take the curse for you. Now, with that being the introduction this morning to our story, we're going to find ourselves in Genesis chapter 27 and verse 18. And so he went into his father and said, my father. And he, the dad, says, here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob says to his father, I'm Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of the game, that your soul may bless me. But Isaac says to his son, how is it you found it so quickly? He answered, because the Lord your God granted me success. And then Isaac said to Jacob, please come near that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went near to Isaac, his father, who felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, are you really my son Esau? And he answered, I am. And then he said, bring it near to me, that I may eat of my son's game and bless you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And then his father Isaac said to him, come near and kiss me, my son. And so he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said this, see the smell of my son, it is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. And as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He also prepared delicious food and brought it to his father, and he said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that you may bless me." And his father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" And he answered, "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." And then Isaac trembled very violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me, and I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him? Yes, and he shall be blessed." And as soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me, even me also, my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing." And Esau said, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing." And then he said, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" And Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him lord over you, and all his brothers I have given to him for servants. And with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son?" And Esau said to his father, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said, "Behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck." What a story. See, here's the thing. The reality of blessing, I think, as we think through this, what we mean by blessing, I'm blessed, or I gave my blessing to this, is pretty different than what is indicated in this story. And so we're going to talk about that. Right? This passage that is about blessing, we're going to talk about the power of blessing. We're going to talk about how we all need the blessing. You see, both boys, right, are coming to their dad going, "I need your blessing." We're going to talk about how do we typically get that? What are the typical means that we use to accomplish feeling blessed? And ultimately, we're going to talk about true blessing. Well, let's get on our horse and try to ride here a little bit. Let's talk about the power of blessing. See, we have a wrong understanding. But here's how I know we have a wrong understanding of it. See, when we read through this story, we, like Esau, are like, if you got tricked, then just call him back in and go, "Hey, you're a liar and a cheat. I didn't mean those things that I said. It's actually for your brother." But Rebekah and Jacob are stealing something that they think isn't going to, they're well aware that Esau is going to show back up with some animal and make it into food and walk into his brother, and the deception is going to be found out. But whatever it is that they're going to get, right, that they're seeking for Jacob is something that can't be given back. And even, right, once it's been given, clearly Isaac and Esau don't think that somehow just, I didn't really mean that, never mind, I'm going to give this to the other guy. It is something, this blessing is something that can be stolen. Like that should tell us that the nature, our understanding of blessing is maybe confused. Whatever the blessing is, it can't be taken back and it can't be given over. There's a part of it, right, as we think about what is it. There's a part of it that is will and testament, right? This is my intentions. This is how things are going to go. I've declared that this is how my stuff and my rule and reign of the clan, right, is going to go. And that is certainly a part of it. Look at verse number 29. "Let the peoples serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you." He's saying, I give you, Jacob, the right to be the head of the family. You've got the honor and the blessing and the respect. They're supposed to follow you. But we've also got verse 28, right? It's not just sort of will and testament, it's also verse 28. "May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine." Now, we might be prone to think, well, it's just like a prayer for prosperity. Why couldn't he also sort of give that to his brother? But Isaac says in verse 37, right, when his brother goes, "Where's mine? I need some for me." He goes, "I already gave it to him. I've already given this away. I can't also give it to you." Now, we might be prone to think maybe they're just sort of primitive people. That maybe they just don't understand. Maybe they're almost superstitious, like once I've uttered these words, I can't take them back. But here's the thing. I think counselors, psychologists, certainly pastors, and you yourselves are well aware. The words that we speak, in particular the words that parents speak over their children, have long-lasting impact. There's a scholar who wrote it this way. This narrative presumes that symbolic actions have genuine and abiding power, and that spoken words, especially of a parent to a child, shape our human life. Words here are not a matter of indifference, which may be attended to or not, as is convenient. Right, from the time that we were little, we heard, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words are never going to hurt me. What a lie that is. Sticks and stones may break my bones, and the words have abiding power to shape my future and my thoughts. Words of affirmation and words of cursing. They do work. They sink in. They go places in our souls. They shape and alter who we are. We hear them. Words operate in power. They program the voices that we hear when we speak to ourselves. The ancients knew that, right? I mean, Jacob and Isaac and Esau and Rebekah knew that. They knew that even the offhanded, unplanned, casual comments move in and shape and direct and hurt and ruin and comfort and sweeten our lives. How much more, right? If the unplanned ones do, how much more the planned ones? How much more the ceremonial ones? How much more the ones that are spoken in those moments of significance? We didn't have promotion move up Sunday on accident. We want, with very intentional voices, to say to our children, we are watching you grow and progress. We are watching you become something, and we care about it, and we value it, and we're partnering with you in it, and we want them to see it and hear it, even in something as goofy isn't the right word. Almost silly as a balloon and a tiny little treat. We're saying something very intentionally to our 6th graders who have become 7th graders. Some of you are still sitting in this room. We handed you the gift. I'm a little secret for all of you. Right, that's a Bible. That's not an earth-shattering gift. But what are we trying to say? We're trying to communicate in this moment. This is yours. You can understand it and read it and know it. And we want you to sit here with us as those who are growing and learning and becoming and understanding that you are capable of that. How much more do the moments of significance, do the words that we speak in those moments go in and shape and form and become? How much more, right, a deathbed blessing or cursing? How much more the words of Isaac to his boys in his last days? I remember, my dad passed, it's been 16 years ago now. I remember the last conversation that I had with my dad. I know what he said. I still possess the birthday card that my mom went down to the hospital gift shop and brought up, and he, with very trembly hands in his weakness in the hospital bed, wrote me happy birthday and some other things in my card. I remember, I hold on to it. It's one of my treasured and prized possessions. At the school I went to, when we were in 8th grade, as we were transitioning from 8th grade to high school, they had all of the parents write their kids notes and letters. I still possess the one my dad wrote, the one my mom wrote. Those words are significant and powerful to me. And they're true for each of us, right? We've got those things that have been said to us and about us, unplanned ones and planned ones. See, here's blessing. Let me give you a definition. This is a Tim Keller definition of blessing. Blessing is an accurate spiritual discernment of who the person is, what God has made them, what gifts God has given them, who they are, and who they are becoming, and what God is making them. See, blessing comes from a spot that says, I can see who you are. And we can see that here. Jacob himself later at the end in Genesis chapter 48, he's going to gather his sons around his deathbed and speak to them. Very intentional, very powerful, very prophetic words about who they were becoming and what their family was going to look like. It's not just a will. It's not just good wishes. It's an accurate look at someone. It's intentionally speaking powerful words to affirm, encourage, and empower them in a direction. It sets the course for who they are becoming. Right? We can't mistake this. We've lived this. We've got voices in our heads. We've experienced it. We don't forget them. When somebody with actual spiritual insight, who actually knows us and is seen into us and discerns what God is doing and affirms it and encourages it, you don't forget those moments. I've shared this story. I'm going to give just a snippet of this. I had grown up in the church. I'd been in youth group and lots of sermons and all that stuff. And it wasn't until an old, wise woman in Anchorage, Alaska, looked at me and went, I think maybe the Lord is calling you into ministry, that I ever had even considered it. And that set us, quite frankly, all of us together, you're welcome to that lady, into the course that we're living out. And she had heard me teach, and she just saw something, and the Lord used those words to call me into a place. We live this. Isaac knew that when he spoke, he couldn't take it back. Isaac knew that when he spoke it, he couldn't take it back. He was affirming Jacob. He was making him someone. He was helping him become what God had created him to be. If that's the power of blessing, why do we all need it? See, without it, we are, like Jacob, distorted people. We're going to wrestle our whole lives. Jacob is going to wrestle his whole life with the notion of blessing. To the spot where when we come to the end, right, he's blessing his boys. He knows the significance in his own life, and he's giving it away very intentionally, very purposefully to his boys. There's a spot when he's in the middle age when he's going to be out in a field wrestling with the angel of the Lord. We believe that is Jesus pre-incarnate wrestling. And it says he's not going to let him go until what? Until he is blessed by God. Jacob literally wrestles with the notion of blessing his whole life. Nobody, this is important to understand. Nobody gets to bless themselves. And this is very contradictory to what our culture is trying to tell us, right? Our culture is still wrestling with the ideas and notions of blessing. And much of the sort of self-esteem movement and motion has been that somehow we have to be the ones who bless ourselves. It never works. Nobody blesses themselves. Look at verse number 18 here in chapter 27. Go back and look at verse 18. He goes into his father, and his dad says, he goes into the father, he says, my father, and the dad says, right? Isaac looks at him and says, here I am. Notice the question, who are you, my son? Who are you? From the very beginning of the story, the question is, in the connection to blessing, who are you? He knows Esau shouldn't be back this fast. So Jacob lies. I'm Esau, your firstborn. It's interesting, later when Esau actually comes in, about verse 32, when it's actually Esau says, and he flips the order. He says, I'm your son, your firstborn, and he finishes with his name. Now to us, that may just feel like a insignificant sort of thing. But the scholars and the translators and the commentators all pointed out, see, in Hebrew conversation, the last word in the sentence is the one of significance. And so for Jacob, the thing that is important to him is, I'm the firstborn. Right? And on one level, he is being entirely deceptive. On another, he has, because he purchased the birthright, right, from his brother, he became the firstborn. The significance there. when Esau comes in, his significant thing is, I'm Esau. I'm me. I'm who I am. Do you notice the thing? Like, Isaac has loved, the dad has loved Esau. Not just in this moment. See, we see the pattern in the story from the very beginning is that the dad, Isaac, has loved, doted, cared for, preferred, loved more Esau. We see that. We're told that in the text. And Rebekah loved Jacob more. And this conflict and this struggle and all this stuff. We all had dads, moms. We all grew up in families. And for some of us in our families, right, one of the children was maybe preferred by one of the parents. And we saw that, and we lived that, and we saw the conflict of that. And right, maybe there was a dad, and maybe he wanted to spend more time. Maybe this kid was more like he was, and so he spent more time with him. And that was the kid that got invited to go to breakfast, and that was the kid that got invited to go on the trip, and that was the kid who got to sit around late at night and hang out. And maybe it was the oldest, or maybe it was the second, or maybe it was the daughter, or maybe it was right. There's often one child that sort of gets that blessing in an informal way, almost throughout their life. And that's what's been going on. The formal blessing that we're looking at right here, we're going to talk about in just a second. But notice that the informal blessing of which one of my children do I prefer? Which one do I love the most? Which one do I care about the most? Which one do I have most plans for their future? It has clearly been that is what Isaac has given to Esau. He's gotten the extras and the attention and the words and the praise. The most powerful person in these boys' life, the most powerful person in the whole clan, right? In their social dealings and the business dealings as they've become adults. The powerful voice has always preferred Esau. The uniquely valuable voice has communicated that Esau is the one who is significant. You might ask yourself, why would Jacob risk everything? Why would he walk in there trying to trick his dad? Because apparently, right, not it's just the blessing can't be taken back, but probably the curse couldn't have been taken back. Why is he willing to risk that? Why is he willing to trick him and exploit him? And it's right there in the response. What he's saying to him is, you should have been blessing me all along. I've needed this from you my whole life. I've longed for you to look at me the way you look at my brother. I've longed for you to speak to me the way you speak to my brother, to value me the way you value him, and you haven't done it. You should have been giving this to me all this time. Smile at me, speak over me, kiss me. Dad, please will you bless me? Friends, that is every one of us. We all want, long, need, blessed. And by giving the blessing to Esau and not to Jacob in all of these years, think about the damage that has been being done. Think about the fracturing that is about to happen in this family as a result of this. Think about the fracturing that has been happening all along in the family because of this. Isaac and Rebekah have been, right, preferring one of the sons over the other. And I'm sure there has been conflict in moments throughout their marriage. What is about to happen when Esau figures out what his brother has done, he pledges to murder him the moment that his dad dies. His mom, Rebekah, knowing that, hearing that, anticipating that, is going to take Jacob and send him away back to her brother and the family that we looked at just a couple of weeks ago, Laban, and send him away. She will never see him alive again. Jacob is going to spend his life continuing to wrestle over the idea of blessing and love and care, anticipating that the moment that he sees his brother, he will be murdered. He is supposed to be the head of this clan, right? He's supposed to get the inheritance. He leaves penniless, sheepless, familyless, and flees. Because a parent wouldn't bless all of their children. Now, here's the thing. We don't want to just be sort of general people with general blessing. What we need, what we long for, is someone to know us for who we are and to tell us why we're valuable and important. We want to be unique. We want to be seen and loved for who we actually are and who we are actually becoming. We want the valuable people in our lives, right? Those unique voices to speak that to us. The people we admire and respect and value, we want them to see us. We want them to say that there's nobody like us in the whole world. We want their love and their blessing. Because we cannot bless ourselves. I don't care the book you read or the pamphlet or the Oprah special you watch. You cannot decide to simply value yourself. It's not how we're wired. When we are someone who looks around and goes, everybody else thinks I'm an idiot, but by golly, I'm good enough, smart enough, and strong enough, it doesn't work. We need the person that we think is strong to tell us that we're strong. We need the person that we think is beautiful to tell us that we're beautiful. Blessings come from the outside. This blessing that uniquely comes from Isaac to Jacob, we need that. The blessing of the firstborn. Someone who sees us for who we are becoming, and tells us that we are significant. Now, how do we usually find it? Right? Because if this is true for us universally, where have we been looking for it? And I want to tell you, I read something this week and it was like, I'd never seen it this way before. Think about what Jacob does to get the blessing from his dad. Jacob becomes someone else, someone that he isn't. He puts on clothes that are not his. He puts on a smell that is not his. He takes on a profession that is not his. And he has to. There's no other way, right? He has no other means of getting the blessing than becoming someone he isn't. The clothes probably didn't fit. He probably did not enjoy the smell. He didn't really shoot the animal. And Isaac, right? Isaac, the one who's supposed to be giving the blessing, can see it. Even if he's deceived, right? You can see the questions keep coming. You don't really look like him. You don't feel like him. You don't smell like him. This is way too fast. You didn't really earn this. And he keeps asking, what's weird? What's different? It feels wrong. You aren't really being you. He had to dress up like somebody else to get the blessing. He couldn't be himself. Because, catch this, I'm going to warn you, this one might's going to sting. Because being himself wasn't enough. He had to trick his own dad to get the blessing. He had to, right, go to the person of significance, not being himself, because being himself hadn't been enough. Being Jacob hadn't worked. Being Jacob hadn't worked. He was small, probably smaller than his brother. He was domesticated. He was a guy who lived in the tents. He was all of the things that his brother wasn't. He was this mama's boy, smooth skin, couldn't shoot straight, probably couldn't cook. And so he couldn't earn the blessing that he desired, required, needed, and longed for. Not from the one that he actually wanted it from, not from his dad. And so to get it, he had to put on someone else's skin. He had to be somebody else. And isn't that true for most of us, many of us, all of us? We put on somebody else's skin. That's how we seek the blessing. We don't want people to see the real us. We don't want people to know the real us. We don't want them to know that we're afraid. We don't want them to know that we sin. We don't want them to know that we've got flaws and weaknesses. So our jobs, we dress like somebody else. We smell like somebody else. And we put ourselves away. And there's a line, it's in a movie I saw just the other day. You should always dress for the job that you want. What a terrifying line that is. If you want something, if you want to be blessed, if you want to accomplish, then you've got to look like somebody that isn't actually you. about relationships, not just jobs? How often do we see somebody and they're smart or they're beautiful or they're powerful and they're accomplished, and we want them to like us. We want them to value us. We want them to bless us. And we think, boy, if they like us, if the smart guy thinks that I'm smart, if the beautiful person thinks that I'm beautiful, if the powerful person thinks that I've got power, if they like me, if they love me, then I'll be blessed. And parents, how many of us, regardless of our age, are still trying to get our parents to approve of us? Whether it's our job, or it's our relationship, or it's our bank account, or it's the vacation that we took, or it's whether or not we showed up at the family dinner for Christmas. We want them to bless us. We want them to like us. We want them to tell us we're doing a good job. And we can't stand the idea that they don't approve and they don't value us. And even for some of us, I know some of us in this room, and what we have done, we've gone for so long, some of us, without the blessing, without the approval, without the value, that we start to go, that's it, I'm just never going to get it, I don't even want it anymore. Except we do. Except we do care what they think. Except that's why we keep having the conversation in our head. See, look at this. I'm doing the opposite of what my parents said because I don't really care what they think, except I'm still sitting here talking to myself about exactly what they think. Because we remember the voices. We remember the moment, the planned one and the unplanned moment. We heard those things, and we've been affected. We feel that reality, and we can't by ourselves be blessed. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say this one. And how many of us approach our spiritual lives, church, this way? And we get cleaned up, and we make sure our kids have got, their mouths have been washed and their hair's been licked down. And we bring us here and our family, and we want people to go, see, here they are. They're here. And maybe they're serving, and maybe they come to the Bible study, and we come to the group, and we want to make sure we give the answer. And we want to be pretty good, but not so good. We want to have some fears, but not we want to be a little bit authentic, but not all the way authentic. We want to have temptations, but not too much sin, just the right amount. See, we dress up because we want the blessings of the people. We want somebody to say, aren't you great? Aren't you beautiful? Aren't you smart? Aren't you worthwhile? One of the saddest moments in the whole story comes in verse number 27. He comes near to his dad, and he kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments, and he blessed him. How often must Jacob have longed for that moment? To be pulled in, to be drawn near, for his dad to smell him and touch him and feel him and kiss him and go, I love you and bless you. Jacob has lived his whole life longing for this moment. And in the moment that he gets it, the moment that he gets the smile, in the moment he gets that satisfied, I am proud and thankful for who you are, and the meal was good, and I'm going to speak these words of blessing over you. And what is Jacob thinking in his mind? Did it change everything? Does he suddenly feel, significant and valued and known and heard? No. Why? Because he had to put on somebody else's skin to get the moment. See, could you imagine the pain? That this moment, this look that you've longed for, wanted, hoped for, And some of us have those moments with our parents. Have those moments with our significant others. Have those moments with somebody that we value. We just want them to see us. And if in that moment what they're actually seeing is somebody else's skin, he knows that it's only because he isn't himself that he's getting blessed. This story is a mess. The Bible's got some messy stories. This is one of them, right? Everybody, by the time this story is over, hurt and broken. I went through it, right? Esau's going to kill Jacob. Rebekah has to send him away. Jacob's on the run for the rest of his life. And so what we are prone to say, what you might even be sitting here thinking is, man, I sure am not going to do that to my kids. Man, maybe you've started, right? I got to write my kid a note. I got to write every one of my kids a note. I got to look them in their eyes. I got to see them for who they are. I'm going to do this better. Except that the problem is, for most of us in this room, we don't get to do it over. We don't get to go be 7 and sit with our dads and our moms and have them hear the sermon and go, they're going to do this better. We have to live with the reality that we are where we are. And I had a good dad. I have a good mom. She's the lady that sits up here and tells kids stories all the time. I've got moments. I've got notes from them from when I was in 8th grade. And I've got moments. My dad did pass away 16 years ago. I do not sit here. I heard all of the things from my dad I needed to hear. I know my dad loved me and was proud of me and was proud of where I was going, and he had seen some of my kids. I'm thankful for those moments. But good parents just make it better. They do not make it good. And bad parents make it worse, but they do not make it impossible. Because here's the thing, friends. As much as we might be prone to say, don't want to screw up my family, we want to be good parents, we want to bless our kids, some of us are really already screwed up. And Isaac gives us a hint, though, in the middle of this story, what the hope is. Right? Because we are all coming. Your kids are going to keep coming, longing and asking for blessing. And it never comes from the inside, and it always comes from the outside. But Isaac, in the middle of the story, when he's looking at his son, Esau, smelling him now, and he says to him, who brought this game and the meal? Look at verse 33. Who was it then that hunted the game and brought it to me, and I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him? Right? He's in the moment that he figures out he's been tricked. Isaac is sitting here and Esau's in front of him. Jacob and his mom are probably listening outside of the tent to figure out what's about to happen. And as he's processing, if I've already given my blessing away, Esau, I wanted to give this to you, and you can see the wheels turning. Who was it then that hunted the game and brought it to me? And I ate it all before you came, and I've already blessed him. And then notice this line, yes, and he shall be blessed. Deception, trickery, words have been spoken and given. Yes, and he shall be blessed. See, he knows he's been tricked, and yet the crook is going to be blessed. The broken one is going to receive the blessing. Isn't that good news? That should be good news. God blesses even the crook. God's grace extends even to the broken. In fact, God is going to bless the most screwed up person in the whole story. I told you, you can look hard. Of the seeds that come in this line to the Messiah, Jacob is one of the worst, if not the worst. There are very few redeeming moments where we look at him and go, man, he really did the right thing there. Man, he really did this good thing. Man, he really did that well. There's not very many of those. And yet that guy in this story is the one that God is going to bless. And it's not just that God is going to bless him. Notice what Isaac is saying. Yes, and he shall be blessed. Because here's what. Isaac should have been blessing him all along. And he knows it. See, Isaac knows that the prophecy took place all the way back at the beginning of his life. He knows that God has said, this is the seed, this is the one, this is the head of the family. And instead of sort of getting behind God's plan and going, I'm going to follow you, Lord, I trust that you know better than I do, and contrary to culture, we're going to go do this way. He's been fighting it. He's been battling God throughout these boys' lives, trying to, based on his own perception and his own thoughts about what was right, undo what God had said he was going to do. But in this moment, right, there's that sense where he goes, yes, and he'll be blessed. The very purposes of God will be accomplished. The thing that he's been trying to avoid and override, God's plan, God is going to win. And hear this, friends, that is the beauty and the majesty and the power of grace. That the things that we deserve, the things that we've earned, the false things maybe even that have been spoken over us, God can get through those. His grace is coming. He is willing and accomplishing, and we can't thwart it. And we can't earn it. See, we think that if we put on somebody else's skin, if we show up enough times, if we make ourselves smell the right sort of way. But God knew that that would never work. So what did he do? He sent us Jesus. Jesus took on skin. He became one of us that he might go to the cross. Because he knew that we couldn't earn it. He took the curse for us, the curse of brokenness, and he went to the cross. What that is telling us is that the love that we experience from the Father comes to us as a result of the works and the righteousness of Jesus.